Let's start simple. Let's start with Jest. What is Jest? Jest is a test runner that runs your test, and it also gives you an API to make assertions about your code. The way it works right now, we would, if you already cloned or downloaded this repository, as I told in the first video, you would, and you already supposedly run npm install and installed all the dependencies. If you've done all of that, you can open your terminal of preference and run npm start, and that would start your HTTP server and also would run a webpack. Although we do not really need this right now, but that is a command, and our app would be available at localhost 8080. Other than that, in the tab next to it, I would run npm test. Npm test would be a script in package.json that runs Jest with the -- watch all flag, and that means that whenever we change our test, it would rerun again. To make our test, in our source folder that is named src, we would create a folder __ tests, and in that folder we would create our test, and I would call it first test.js. You can also see naming scheme like spec.js, whatever you like, or any other naming scheme, but those probably are the most two common, are there either test.js or spec.js, whatever you like most. So what happens here is right now we have this empty test, and Jest would be grumpy about it. It would tell you that your test suite must contain at least one test. So to do that, let's start with writing this test method, and it immediately prompts you that it accepts 3 parameters. I use VS Code editor, and probably not all editors do that, but VS Code seems to be an editor of choice for a lot of front-end developers. So if you're using that, this is great, that it will give you this kind of helpful hint. So you should pass it name, that's a string, and you should pass it a function callback. The third parameter is optional, as you see by question mark, and you should not care about that, at least right now. So let's call our test example test, and let's pass an arrow function that would be our callback. So what do we do in our arrow function? That's my auto format. I have format on save. Okay, so what do we here is we validate different things in our test. So the way it would work in real life, you import your modules, you import your classes, you create your classes, and you run certain validations to make sure that what you expect and what you receive are a match. So let's see how does this work in Jest. So Jest provides you an API called expect, and that gives you a whole set of matchers that let you validate different things. So we start by writing expect, and that expect would be, let's say 1, and you have, if you type dot or you press control space or command space after that, it immediately in VS Code gives you a whole set of things you can call on it. So that would be last called with and not to be called. So what we're interested in now is to be, and it also gives you a nice description, checks that the value is what you expect. It uses strict equality, don't use to be with floating point numbers. Okay, so we got that, and we can do to be 1. That's as simple as it gets. It's not very useful, but it gives you an idea of what expect is and how this works. And right now we put save, and it saves, and our tests all pass. Other than that, we should see how our tests, what would happen if our tests fail, and this looks like this. We get a message like what test exactly failed. If we had a multiple test, it would show us which tests pass and which fail, and in our example test failed, and it would write us expect received to be expected, that is expected 2 and received 1. So you can use that information to fix your tests. That's it at the most basic level, and what I also show you is This is an example that I've seen a lot, and I thought I'd show you too. That's a sum function. I think it's sort of a cliche whenever you look at some tutorial about testing that it has this function. So what we can do here is we can write const result and make sum 1 and 3, and that would be result, and we would expect it to be 4. Okay, so in a nutshell, that's it. And in the next video, we'll take a look at a few other matchers from the Jest docs, and you, in the same time, in the meantime, you can go ahead and look at them yourself. Maybe you'll find something interesting. But what exactly I want to look at in the next one is to equal and to throw error, because everything else I think is probably not that different. Well, you would use to be equal a lot, to equal a lot, so that's an interesting one. And to throw error, sometimes we need to check for error, so to throw error is an interesting one to have property. So yeah, that'll be it for today, and I'll see you in the next video.